I want to tackle a very provocative question. Why are Western countries better in some very important senses than Muslim countries? And we see this in the data. We see that Muslims in Muslim countries are way more likely to want to go live in Europe, in Canada, in the United States, than the vice versa. And anybody who's lived in both of these countries knows there's some senses in which like life in Western countries is nicer, it's cleaner, it's more orderly. And if we have the ideology of truth from God, this divine code for organization of society, then how come our societies suck so much? You live in a Muslim country, you will see trash everywhere on the streets. Maybe not every Muslim country, but this is a feature of low trust societies. There's trash everywhere on the streets. People drive like maniacs. People don't obey the laws of speed, of red lights, of stop signs, and you see wanton death and destruction because of that. Bribery and cheating and fraud in business transactions is commonplace in Muslim countries. Whereas when you go live in a Western country, the streets are clean. You can't deny that. People, by and large, they're not littering, they're not dumping in the streets, they're picking up after themselves. When they drive, they don't drive like maniacs. They're relatively sane drivers. They're obeying the speed limits, they're obeying the red lights. What's going on here? Okay, like what's going on? What are these features? And by the way, like the West is far from being a paradise. That's not the point. Anybody who watches my videos knows that the basis of Western society, which is man-made laws, secular law, leads to profound injustices. But what we're talking about in this video are some core basics. Like, these aren't complicated things. Clean streets, people following the rule of law. So what is going on here? What is the distinction between these countries? The distinction is what sociologists call high trust societies and low trust societies. And this is something that we want to unpack and understand. What is it that leads to a high trust society? Let's speak first about low trust societies. A low trust society, like what we see in the Muslim countries, is a society in which people feel like it's every man for himself. You just have to do what you gotta do to survive, to stay ahead, and you cannot rely on the cooperation of your fellow citizens or on the cooperation of the government. Everybody is out to cheat everybody else, everybody is out to steal from everybody else. So if you're not somebody who cheats, if you're not somebody who steals, if you're not somebody who breaks the law, you will fall behind. This is the mentality that dominates a low trust society. People in these countries, like if you ask somebody who litters in one of these countries, okay, why are you littering? Why are you dumping? They'll tell you, well, if I don't do it, everybody else is doing it. So whether I do it or not, it doesn't really change the country, right? And when everybody believes that, it makes it true. Same thing when it comes to bribery or cheating in business transactions. You ask somebody, why are you doing this? They'll tell you, everybody else is doing this. If I don't, then I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm not going to be able to get ahead. I'm not going to be able to put food on the table, right? So that's what a low trust society is. It is a society in which the citizens cannot trust the government to apply the law on a consistent, fair, reliable basis, right? And they cannot trust their fellow citizens to abide by that law on a consistent basis, right? Whereas in a Western country, or let's say just in a high trust society in general, there is this sense that people have that we are all in this together. There is a trust in the government. There is, like in Muslim countries, what you have is an antagonistic relationship between the government and the population. The government is always trying to out-cheat, outsmart, out-slick the people, and likewise, right? So they're not working together, they're working against each other. Whereas in the West, and a lot of what I'm speaking about when it comes to high trust and low trust societies in the West, it is true, like a big caveat on this whole video, the trust in Western societies has been declining rapidly in the last 10 to 15 years especially. But still, we can still talk about the basic principles here. In Western countries, there isn't that antagonistic relationship between the government and the citizenry, between the government and the people. So the people, they can feel like the government, even though there's a lot of mistrust of the government in many different ways, they feel like the government is not out to get them. They feel like if they do have a problem, I can go to the police. If I do have a problem, I can go to an official. I can go to, I can raise this issue in the public forum, right? Whereas in the Muslim countries, if you have a problem, you can't go to the police. That would be, people would laugh at you if you suggested such a thing, right? So that's what in the contrast to a low trust society, that's what a high trust society is. A high trust society, I'm speaking a little bit faster because my battery is about to die. In a high trust society, people can trust that the government will apply that law on a consistent basis. People do not have an antagonistic relationship with that government. People can trust that their citizens are kind of all on the same page with them about this country. And really that comes down to okay, if you want to ask me, what is it that leads to a high trust society? What is it that leads to this relationship between the government and its people? What is it that leads to a low trust society? What is it that leads to that antagonism, that zero-sum mindset that people have, that kind of every man for himself mindset that people have? What is that kind of root cause diagnosis that makes the difference between these two kinds of societies? What I would advance is that it has to do with what is it that binds the people of that country together. Muslim countries, the answer to the question that we posed in the beginning, which is why are Western countries better than Muslim countries, because Muslim country is kind of a misnomer. Yes, the inhabitants of these countries are Muslim, but the basis of organization of these countries has nothing to do with Islam. Whether it's Egypt, whether it's Syria, whether it's Pakistan, Pakistan nominally, symbolically, but not in reality. These countries, when they were organized on nationalist bases. When the Western countries after World War I split up the Ottoman Empire, split up the Muslim countries into the countries that we know today, they split them up in a way that on purpose did not make sense. On purpose combined different kinds of in-groups together. Different kinds of tribal allegiances who were no longer united by the ideology of Islam. When you look at a country like America, you have 50 states, you have lots of different races, but they're all kind of united by the idea of America. That founding idea of America that, people like their founding fathers like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson came and they had this God, which is this abstract concept of liberty, and then those founding fathers were the prophets of that God. I'm kind of putting it in religious terms, but that's what it is, the American civic religion, right? Ultimately, Americans are on the same page about those major questions about life, those questions about worldview, about the right, about the wrong, about what we exist to do, about what the correct ideology is. And that ideology, this what you can call maybe liberalism, democracy, enlightenment values, it's what binds the people of America together. So the American people know that there's this sort of bond, oh, that's my fellow American. And that's not just somebody who was born in the same geographical location as me. This is somebody who is my in-group on the basis of something a little bit deeper than that. Whereas when you look at the countries that we have today in the Muslim land, and like I said, they were split up in these ways that didn't make sense, these countries, what is it that binds people in Egypt together? You might say, well, they're all Muslims, so Islam should bind them, but no, because Islam has been unfortunately reduced to a religion. Right? It's like if you had a country where everybody practiced yoga, would yoga bind them? Well, unfortunately for us, Islam, it's not yoga, but it was reduced to something like that. It was reduced to these personal rituals, morals, spirituality, but it ceased to be the basis for an in-group, like a true political in-group. Which is loyal to each other, which has a shared vision for the society, so that everybody, regardless of what they're doing in society, regardless of their differences, is working together towards a common direction. So that even when I'm walking this way, I know that my fellow citizens are also walking in that way, and I know that my government is also walking in the same direction. But that's not the situation that we have in the Muslim countries. We don't have a situation where people know and trust that everybody else in society is walking in the same direction in life that they are. That they're trying to maximize the same outcomes in the world that they are. There isn't that bigger vision in society that would bring together the government and the people and the different kinds of people in the society together in one direction, so that there is a cooperation in society rather than a mutual antagonism, as we do see in the Muslim countries, where everybody's cheating everybody else and the government's fighting the people and the people are fighting the government all the time. It doesn't have to be that way. And it is that which leads to the low trust society that we experience. because people don't see each other as, kith and kin. We don't see each other as teammates. We don't see each other, I'll put it this way, in our Muslim countries, we don't see each other as working together to build one project, right? That's what unites people, is like, there's something that we all want together. There's something that we're all trying to build together. Americans have that. You might not understand it, but anybody who's gone through their elementary schools and like understood the American founding ideology, the American dream, whatever you want to call it, understands that. Islam is supposed to do that at a 1000x level, because it is not just a unifying vision, it is a unifying vision from God, which is comprehensive to the political, to the spiritual, to the individual, to the collective. It is that which led like a group of desert nomads to conquer 2 empires. It is that which led to the greatest empire in history, the most progressed empire in history. It is that which led to 1,000+ years of prosperity as a Muslim superpower. We had that, it existed. We did have a high trust society. We had the highest trust society. The Khilafah at its peak compared to America was an extremely high trust society. It would have made America today look like a low trust society, which it really is, to be honest. It is a low trust society. It only looks like a high trust society compared to the absolute backwardness and chaos that the Muslim countries exist in today because of the secular nationalism that they have adopted. And the answer to this predicament is very simple. We already have 2 billion Muslims in the world. These countries are already made up of Muslims. All what we need to do is to restore among them the understanding that Islam is that project. It's not just a religion, it's not just a personal set of rituals and spiritualities, no. It is something that, since we already believe in the Quran, we all already believe in the Prophet ﷺ, we just need to understand what he actually said. Because what he instructed us and what he tasked us with, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for, is a project. It is a nation, it is a constitution, it is a vision for humanity to exist upon a divine law, which is the recipe for justice and progress. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.